Welcome to Lesson 7 in Unit 14, Change Over Time. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can the traits of a group of living things change over time? In the previous lesson, students figured out that traits can affect an individual's ability to survive and reproduce. In this lesson, students simulate how traits could allow some peppered moths to survive and reproduce better than other peppered moths. Students figure out that because some traits allow an individual to survive and reproduce better than other individuals, this can cause a group of individuals to change in appearance over many generations. This lesson is approximately 3 days. First, watch the following video, Camouflage, Animal Hide and Seek. Ask students, remember in our last lesson we hunted for toothpicks. What happened to the toothpicks that did not match their environment? Students should respond that they were more easily seen and therefore eaten. Ask, how do you think the camouflage in the SciShow video helped the animals? Take a few student responses. Tell students, we have been learning about variation or differences in the traits of living things. In this lesson, we are going to see some more evidence of how differences among a group of living things give some of those living things a better chance of completing their life cycle and surviving. During the Explore, students will participate in the Hide a Moth activity. Ask students, how can we design an experiment that shows how some traits allow a living thing to survive and reproduce better than other traits? What variables would you need to keep the same in order for your experiment to be a fair test? Allow students to turn and talk, then share a few answers out. To do the activity, form groups of 4 students. Each group should get 3 sheets of moths found on teacher page 14. Next, each group should find an area in your classroom that will be your moth's landing place or environment. The group should color half of their moths to look like the surface that they chose, and the other half should be a very different color. The moths whose color matches their landing place or environment are known as camouflaged. Then, students should cut out the moths. Have them put 5 camouflaged moths and 5 of the other moths in their environment space. Tape the moths to the surface that you chose. Invite your principal or other adult to represent the hungry bird to come and hunt in the whole classroom for moths for 1 minute. If no one is available, you, the teacher, can play the role of the hungry bird. Continuing on, each group should count how many of their camouflaged moths survived and how many of their other moths survived. Students should record their data on the moth simulation datasheet on student pages 15 through 17. Give students time to create a bar graph with the results. Circulate as students are creating their graph to ensure that they are on track. Next, discuss each group's result and record on the board the reasons why some moths survived and others did not. Then, tell students that some moths have survived and are able to reproduce and continue their life cycle. For every moth that survived, color and add 3 more camouflage moths to represent the babies of the survivor. They will repeat the process of the hungry bird and count the surviving moths and record their findings on the second round graph. Finally, discuss the difference in the 2 graphs. What would happen over time to this group of moths? During the Explain portion of this lesson, visit the following website with your students. You can read with students and show them the peppered moth's life cycle and how the peppered moths changed over time because of the fact that one colored trait was better than the other trait in terms of allowing the moths to survive and reproduce. Next, watch 25 Insane Animal Adaptations. Create a class 3-column chart on chart paper detailing the organism, the trait, and how the trait helps the animal survive for at least 5 of these animal examples. Give students a copy of Variation, Survival, and Reproduction Explanation from student page 18. This is a scaffolded claim, evidence, reasoning activity for your students where they will fill in the blanks for each stage of argumentation. Depending on your students' abilities, you may want to let them work in groups, or you may want to lead this as a class discussion with chart paper. If you are unfamiliar with CER in the classroom, refer to the lesson plan for a teaching channel resource available to you. Evaluate students according to the CER rubric from teacher page 17. Ask students, what have we figured out in this lesson that could help us explain why it is so hard to find pink katydids in nature? Students may respond that there is variation of traits within a group of organisms. For the katydids in the story, they can be pink or green. Some of the variation allows certain individuals to survive and reproduce or complete their life cycle better than other variations. This means that pink katydids don't pass on their traits as much as green katydids do because they don't match the green environment and they stick out to predators. That is why it is so hard to find pink katydids in nature. In this lesson, students simulated how traits could allow some peppered moths to survive and reproduce better than other peppered moths. Students figured out that because some traits allow an individual to survive and reproduce better than other individuals, this can cause a group of individuals to change in appearance over time. This unit sets the foundation for further explorations of evolution, natural selection, and adaptation in middle school. In middle school, students will look at proportions and probability when discussing change in populations over time. This is the culminating lesson in Unit 14, Change Over Time.